Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Al-Quran, whether the Jews of the Quran and spares, and we have been reading from Surah Al-Ahqaf, and we have reached verse 11. The context, of course, the previous verses address the idolaters of Mecca, the pagans, the non-believers, about the rejection, about their accusations to the Prophet ﷺ. And the response, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that he is not really, it's not a new phenomenon, he's not the first messenger ever sent. And they know that there were prophets before. They don't believe in the messages. They are not willing to change course and modify their way of life accordingly. There were Jews and there were Christians in the Arabian Peninsula, and of course the pagans. And of course, the Hanifs, the monotheist remnants of the religion of Abraham, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. So ultimately, we stopped after discussing verse 9 and verse 10 that the Prophet ﷺ said ultimately that I don't know what will happen to me or will happen to you. I only follow the revelation that he's a warner. And in the books of the exegesis, they have explained, and this is Hassan Basri, rahmahullah, saying that, of course, this is about this life. It's not about the hereafter. For the hereafter, the Prophet ﷺ is destined to paradise, and the idolaters, if they insist on disbelief and rejecting the message, they are destined to, of course, hellfire. And Hassan al-Basri addressed only the part about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And the next verse, verse 10, challenging those idolaters. Consider that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you deny it, and then a witness from amongst the children of Israel attests to it, and then believes. And a host of scholars, first generation, second generation Muslims, all of them said that this is a reference to Abdullah bin Salam, who was a Jewish rabbi, and that he was in the hadith, the only one that the Prophet ﷺ said clearly, plainly, the only one walking on the face of earth, that that the Prophet ﷺ said he is going to paradise. Of course, there are those who were destined to paradise, like the 10 companions, those who have been, of course, killed, the 70 reciters of the Qur'an who were killed near the well of Bi'r Ma'una, and Zayd bin Haritha and Ja'far alayhi salam, Ibn Rawaha, Al-Umaysa, Bilal, Suraqa, Abdullah bin Amr bin Haram, the father of Jabir. Inshallah, we'll read and continue. Verse 11. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقال الذين كفروا الذين آمنوا لو كان خيرا ما سبقونا إليه. وقال الذين كفروا الذين آمنوا لو كان خيرا ما سبقونا إليه. وإذ لم يهتدوا به سيقولون هذا إفك. ومن قبله كتاب موسى إماما ورحمة وهذا كتاب مصدق لسانا عربيا لينذر الذين ظلموا وبشرى للمحسنين. The disbelievers say of the believers, had it been something good, they, and I'll explain they inshallah, what do they mean by this, would not have beaten us to it. Now, since they reject its guidance, they would say this is an ancient fabrication. They, meaning the poor and powerless Muslims, arrogance, egoism, false sense of pride prevent people from accepting the truth, especially when they saw that their own slaves becoming Muslims. They don't want to be on the same level. Any talk about equality that is only lip service will be exposed. People who don't walk the talk, any people who think that they are on a different level, anyone who subscribes to a hierarchy of nations, whereby nations are indeed, here we talk about the fabrication. You know very well that anyone who knows history, you talk about an American. Louisiana was purchased from from France. The Americans were going to take it anyway. Alaska was bought from Russia. So these are historical facts, and then when you happen to be on one side of the border, not the other, you are part of a nation and you become superior. Any idea of a biological hierarchy is racist to the core. But those Meccans, they knew those leaders of Mecca, the wealthy, they did not want to be with the meek and the powerless, the slaves, including, for example, Sayyidina Bilal bin Rabah, radiallahu anhu. He was Abyssinian, he was a slave. Now, some of those slaves were killed by their own so-called owners. And Sayyidina Bakr Sadiq spent his money, his wealth, buying and setting those slaves free. There is another meaning for لو كان خيرا ما سبق. So when it is mentioned by the idolaters, they simply say that if it is something good, those powerless, poor, miserable would not have beaten us to this religion. That's arrogance, that's pride. And those who have an atom weight of pride in their hearts, they are at great risk, even if they say that they are believers. The hadith of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. قال رجل إن الرجل ثوبه حسنة ونعله حسنة قال إن الله جميل يحب الجمال الكبر بطر الحق وغمط الناس. He who has an atom's weight of pride in his heart will not enter paradise. A man said amongst the companions of Quran, he said, a man loves to have his clothes and shoes look good, to look neat, to clean, neat. The Prophet ﷺ said, God is beautiful and loves beauty. So that's not the meaning that's not the issue with pride. Pride is rejecting the truth and looking down on people. بطر الحق الكبر بطر الحق وغمط الناس. And the Prophet ﷺ was very humble. He would sit with people, eat what they eat, living the same like them, does not distinguish himself in any way. So much so, and this is one of the most beautiful that, every time you mention something beautiful, you might say this the most beautiful. Of course, there are many beautiful things, and it's not a hierarchy. A very beautiful hadith, I should say, is an Arabi, a Bedouin and Arabi. Of course, there is just a little bit of difference. A Bedouin is someone who lives in the desert and like a nomad in any culture. An Arabi, this is particular to the Arabs who used to be Bedouins but now moved closer to the city and they settled there. So, but he came once, one of those Arab came looking for the Prophet ﷺ. He did not see him from before. He heard about him and he came to meet with the Prophet ﷺ. And typically those who come usually they come after the hearing all these good things and they want to become Muslim. So the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with his companions, and this Arabi, this Bedouin, asked the following question, and you can immediately realize why it's very beautiful. He said, Ayyukum Muhammad, which one of you is Muhammad? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's the way some of them were, they just came out of the desert, they don't know how to address the Prophet ﷺ. Ayyukum Muhammad, meaning, and the Prophet ﷺ was sitting amongst his companions. He did not distinguish himself in seating, in clothing, nothing. No crowns, he lived and died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a very simple life, and his own shield was used as a collateral for a loan. So he passed away and his shield was still a collateral. At any rate, the other use of لو كان خيرا ما سبق إليه, Ibn Kathir says وأما أهل السنة والجماعة فيقولون في كل فعل وقول لم يثبت عن الصحابة رضي الله عنهم هو بدعة لأنه لو كان خيرا سبقون إليه لأنه لم يترك خصلة مخير إليها. So the other uses by the people, I would like to call it أهل السنة والجماعة is the mainstream Muslims. Of course, the understanding is that the Ash'arites, the Maturidis, and those who follow the methodology of Ahl al-Hadith, they are all amongst the people of Sunnah al-Jama'ah. It will defeat the purpose to speak about until today, the majority, but this is not about numbers, the majority of Muslims until today, and they have been, since there were Ash'arites and Maturidis, they have been the majority of the Muslim world until today. So out of the 2 billion Muslims, you will find that they are the majority. But again, it's not a matter of numbers. The notion of bid'ah is innovation. And there are two types of bid'ah, if you will. One of them is the material, the everyday, the non-religious, let's call it the innovation in areas that pertain to development, Every day there's something new and innovation. And to explain this, I remember one of the older, but it's been close to 40, at least 30, 35 years, 30, 35 years, but doesn't make much difference. An old scholar from Egypt said that he remembers that it seems that in his region, the first time they had a fan in the mosque, and people rejected the fan in the mosque because it's bid'ah from their perspective. They consider it a religious bid'ah. And of course, it is a bid'ah, but it's not a religious bid'ah. It's an innovation. There's no harm to the contrary. The same thing happened, and I was a witness really, when the Imam of a mosque in East Jerusalem, when he was asked why not put air conditioning, heating, cooling system in the mosque, he said, did the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, did they have air conditioning? He's right that listen to me carefully, please. He's right that the companions did not have air conditioning, but they did not have, vacuum cleaners in the mosque. They did not have these wall-to-wall carpets. They did not have the cushions that are filling many mosques that I see. They did not have this, and doesn't mean that we need to have gravel in the mosque. So that will be according to Sunnah. And sometimes the innovation will be mortal if you do it intentionally. I was invited to Charlottesville in Virginia. This is at the University of Virginia. This is the one that was founded by Thomas Jefferson. In fact, his estate is opposite the university at a distance. And the university is like a U shape from his residence. A long story of Thomas Jefferson. His copy of the Qur'an translation was used by a Muslim member of the Congress when he was sworn in. So when I had some free time after the lectures, the conference, whatever, I found a mosque and I went to pray there. Now it seems that they love the notion of the Sunnah. They had like a minbar and three steps literally. But where the Imam on Friday would stand, there is a three-dimensional lafd al-jalala, Allah, that will be literally beneath the feet of the Imam. I've noticed this, and I brought this to the attention of the people, in the mosque, and I was almost beaten. I typically do not really say anything, but this is too much. This lafd al-jalala, okay, and will be under the feet of the Imam literally on Friday. This is too much. It's haram, absolutely haram. So I was almost beaten. I just kept quiet. Then someone from the mosque, Jazakallah khairan, the same person who was basically very aggressive with me, but since I did not say anything, and my body language obviously indicated, and my silence indicated that I don't want a fight or whatever. So he went and he brought a screwdriver and he removed the lafd al-jalala. He somehow, subhanAllah, he realized. So this is an innovation and it cannot basically be accepted. Of course, there are certain issues that go beyond this. You can build, for example, some people, I would say sometimes they are really not Salafi enough, really, even those who claim. But that's a different topic, inshallah. So we have two different approaches to لو كان إليه. The first one is related directly to the verse here. It's about those non-believers who would claim that if it has been something good, the meek, the poor, they would not have beaten us to it. ومن قبل كتاب موسى إماما ورحمة وهذا كتاب مصدق لسانا عربيا لينذر للمحسنين. And before this, the Qur'an, the book of Moses was revealed as a guide and mercy. And this book is a confirmation. وهذا كتاب مصدق. It's a confirmation. Of course, from elsewhere in the Qur'an, muhaymin. Any true message in the previous messages will be confirmed by the Qur'an in the Arabic tongue, because every prophet was sent to his people using their tongue, using their language, to warn those who do wrong, and as good news to those who do good. Warning, but also good omen. And it's a language that they understand. And it's a language that they excel in. Arabic poetry, pre-Islamic Arabic poetry, Islamic poetry, Umayyad, Abbasid, in terms of the chronology. But all in all, Arabic poetry is excellent. Mentioning Arabic poetry, their ability to distinguish good from bad language. This is not about literary style in the sense of, there's as if you are dealing with, with a competition and trying to critique. No, they know, they have the language. We might use the lexicon. They don't need the lexicon. Our language is modified by the 8 o'clock news, and that's very poor. That's practically nothing. So it's a challenge for them. It's something that they understand, and this is why some of them, whom they have sent to me to the Prophet ﷺ, when he listened to the Prophet ﷺ and he went back, obviously he was changed, and he knew that this is not the language that they use. Inshallah, I will continue with this and maybe even just simply shed more light on this verse 12. Otherwise, we'll move on. Until then, بإذن الله عز وجل. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.